All right, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Let me pull up my PowerPoint here real quick and then share. Okay. All right. So welcome to our second info session of the year. This info session is about the Boards and Commissions Leadership Institute, or the BCLI. Um, for tonight, why don't we go ahead and do a quick round of introductions? If we could please go around and say our names, um, and who do you identify as your community? How did you hear about the BCLI? And if you had one dream that could be anything, what would be your dream for creating greater equity in our region? Um, I can go first. My name is Chai Lee. I'm the program manager here at the BCLI. I usually have my boss, Terry Thao, here. She's the program director, but my boss, Terry, is on sabbatical right now, so it's just me running the show tonight. My name is Chai Lee. I identify as both an immigrant and a refugee, as an Asian American, and as a proud East Sider from the east side of St. Paul. So that's what I would identify as my community. And how did I hear about the BCLI? I actually heard about it about almost 10 years ago when I used to work for Mayor Chris Coleman in the city of St. Paul. And while I was working there, Terry was doing research to try to lay the groundwork or foundation for bringing the BCLI program here to the Twin Cities, and she reached out to do a one-on-one with me. So that was how I learned about it, because at the time I actually had the administrative responsibilities for boards and commissions appointments for the St. Paul mayor. Um, and my dream for equity in the region would be that we can do something to affect the homelessness problem and address the housing crisis somehow. That would be my dream for equity in this region. Who wants to go next? Go ahead and just popcorn.
Yeah, I can go. I'm Hannah Planup. I identify as a Korean American adoptee. I am a former foster youth and homeless youth. My family is Jewish, so sort of a broad community. How did I hear about the BCLI? I work with and am friends with Wong Murphy, who recommended that I jump on this webinar. One dream I have for equity in the region would be to have a clear pathway from high school to post-secondary education for foster and homeless youth, and then clear paths to the workforce after that for anything that they are interested in pursuing.
Thanks, Hannah.
Oh, let's see here. I can go next. It's a little dark here. You might not be able to see me. My name is Mai Tong Yang, and my first name is Mai Tong. I identify using she, her pronouns, and I am among American women, but I also identify as I also accept and identify myself as a refugee, because I was born in a refugee camp, and I heard about BCLI from a friend of mine who participated in BCLI before. And one dream of mine in terms of equity would be, I would like for there to be accessibility and affordability for young girls and young women to get into the tech field, and especially with coding. And that would kind of provide a pathway for them to break into the industry. So that's one of my dreams.
Great. Well, thanks, you two. There's just a few of us here, so we'll kind of breeze through the presentation here. But if you have any questions along the way, feel free to just interrupt me, so that you don't have to hold on to your thought and then lose it at the end. So our goals for today are to learn about the program, the kind of the time commitment, and the history of it, and kind of the strategy behind it. Um, First of all, who are we as Nexus? We are an intermediary, which means that we exist in the nonprofit world between nonprofits and philanthropy. So philanthropy funds nonprofits, but we're kind of in the middle because we're a nonprofit ourselves, but we also take money from philanthropy and do re-granting as well. So we're kind of in the middle, and we're a mid-sized nonprofit that works in these three areas that we call the three ships: authorship, which is community engagement; ownership, which is community wealth building; and then my bucket, the BCLI program, is the leadership, which is building capacity in community. And you see that over the 17 years that we've existed, that 15th anniversary we marked 2 years ago in 2019. So we are in the 17th year. Um, but we've, over the 17 years, we've granted $13 million into communities of color. All of our work we do through a racial equity lens. And so whether it's our wealth building work in making sure that people of color, communities of color, retain wealth in their communities, and that they find an equitable way to transition from a private owner to a worker owner cooperative, for example. And so that's who we are, and we've been around for 17 years. The origin story of the BCLI is that we are actually a replication program, meaning that the originator is not Nexus. The originator is a nonprofit called Urban Habitat, and they are from the Bay Area in Oakland. Um, they've been around about 20 years. They are a BIPOC-led social justice, environmental justice nonprofit. So that's who they are. And in 2009, they created the BCLI because they, as you might know, in California, the political situation in California is there are a lot of issues campaigns. So they have a lot of movements to put up important issues and laws on the to change the state constitution, or what they call referendums. We would call them referendums here in Minnesota. They call them propositions. And so that's kind of the environment that they are in. And as they were doing um, uh, issues campaigns work at the local regional level, they came up against a lot of barriers and resistance. And they realized that some of these powerful barriers are the boards and commissions and committees level of the political levers. And they said to themselves, there's a lot of um, seats on these boards that make very powerful decisions that affect our lives directly on the daily. But they don't always look like us, and their people don't always come with a background and a lived experience or work experience that we have as a diverse community. So why should not our people get on these boards? But there was no such program to teach or train people of color to get on government boards and commissions. So they decided to do it themselves. And so they created the BCLI. Um, and so we are one of about a dozen, under a dozen sites of BCLIs across the country. They're mostly in California cities, like the Bay, Fresno, Merced area, Sacramento, San Diego, LA, up the West Coast at Puget Sound, Sage, um, Hawaii, San Antonio, Houston, Baltimore. So just a sampling of where else the BCLIs are. So just to say as a quick background that we are a replication program. What we do is the BCLI model is a 7-month leadership program basically, and we are a cohort model. We usually field about 15 to 16 members in the cohort each year. This past year we had 16, and the past 2 years before that we had 15. This year I imagine we'll probably have 15 or 16 fellows again. And basically, we train folks with the different leadership skills and political skills and insights and analysis to be a good and effective member on a public body, such as a board committee. And then we're committed as staff to do our best to help advocate for it and place fellows and alumni. And then we connect folks with networks uh, through the alumni or through our trainers as best we can. Um, this is a quote on equity that encompasses our belief on equity. You can see the graphic there, and I'll just read the quote real quick. Equality means everyone gets a pair of shoes. Equity means everyone gets a pair of shoes that fit. And what we mean by leadership and Nexus is that we believe um, that a strong and just equitable community is one in which all members are seen as leaders, that they're given ample opportunities to grow in their leadership, um, and are able to represent the communities at multiple tables in multiple spaces. And we believe that the fellows who come through our program should target seats that are that hold priority in the decision making um, uh, realm. And we do our best to make sure that our leaders are technically and politically prepared and support, and that they're a resource to affect change in systems. This is a graphic that kind of um, explains what I just said in a nutshell. Through our investment in people and their leadership and training them, we leverage our relationships across the organization, the nonprofit field, local, regional, and state networks and contacts to affect change in systems of governance at the boards and commissions committees level. Boards and commissions are very important. They are what we call a hidden layer of power. As you can see listed here, there's a lot of duties that they encompass in the legal and political realm in terms of policies that they affect. How does someone advocate for racial equity as a commissioner? You raise awareness about racial and economic equity with your lived experience, with your background, with your training and knowledge. You voice equity perspectives and solutions. You offer solutions, and you build visibility and power of community. We really see ourselves not just as a leadership program, but a systems change tool, basically, through the work of our fellows and alumni who go out into the world and continue to work in systems. And we learn together. This is a picture about 4 years old from the 2017 graduation. We the cohort model seems to work for us at Nexus. A lot of our leadership programs are cohort model, and we help throughout the program help leverage our relationships to connect fellows and alumni with different networks. The ideal candidate must have a racial equity analysis and understanding of the impact and policy and the roles of system in our lives, and have experience, personal or professional, in advocacy systems, and just be an adult over 18 years and match the residency requirements of the boards that you are targeting. And then the last couple items, you commit to serve on a board commission and you attend the trainings, which I'll list out soon. So this is basically how the program works. As you look through the program's application, you pick out the seats that you'd like to target, and then you list them in the application. And remember to find a nominator. And then the applications are due next Friday. Interviews are mid-August, and then this cohort is picked in September, and the program kicks off in October. And then the training is October to March. So before the pandemic, it was one full Saturday per month, 9 to 5, and then one Thursday night. per month for 5 months as well. But with the pandemic, we have kind of split things up. So the Saturday trainings are no longer full 1-day affairs. They're half days split over 2 days. So the Saturday is 9 to noon, and then the following week is a Thursday session from 6 to 9 p.m. And we have not made a decision about if when we kick off this year, if it will be the same where we've been doing this all on Zoom, or of a hybrid, or if we'll be back in person. So we will, whenever we decide that sometime later this summer, we'll make that public as soon as we can. But if folks have any strong opinions about that, or if that might affect your application in the maybe your application, feel free to say something now, or drop it in the chat, or email me privately, so that we can get a sense of where folks stand about that too. The program, we target seats. As staff, we do background research on the different seats, and how much power they have and what issues they intersect. And so that's what's listed on the targeted seats list in the application. So it'll help guide you decide, select your seats when you're applying. These are the 5 issue areas that we train on: economic development, health, housing, transit, workforce development. And so these are woven through the curriculum throughout the whole program. These are the political geographies, which we officially list in our target seats list. But if you live in a city outside of these cities, don't let that deter you from applying. If you're interested in a board or commission that is not listed there, feel free to just connect with me and just apply. Note that in your application anyway. So don't worry about that. This is just a technical listing of the boards that we have done research on. So if you live in, for example, Apple Valley or Egan, that's obviously not listed there. That doesn't mean that you should not apply for the BCLI. We ask our applicants to be nominated by someone in the community, and they can be any of these organizations. They could be a labor group, faith-based group, other leadership programs, elders, alumni, any government unit, other policy advocacy groups, or grassroots organization. If you don't think you know anyone that can nominate you, please don't deter you from applying. Connect with me privately, and we will work to find a nominator for you through our own networks. Oh, yeah, I just said that. So the application is, it seems daunting at first when you look at it, because if you look at the paper form, it's like 30 pages, but that's, most of that is because it's technical information listed for the boards and commissions in the geographies you saw earlier. But the process is pretty simple. Your nominator fills out, well, let me first say, you do have the option of printing out, downloading and printing out the paper form and then filling it out and then mailing it into Nexus. Otherwise, if you choose the online route, which is fully online, then it's fairly simple here. You see there will be a section for the nominator. They just fill in a nomination form, which is basically their demographics information, and then their nominating letter, which is basically our way of calling what you would call naming, is our way of naming what you would call like a letter of recommendation. And then for you as the nominee, you fill out a cover form too. And the nominee form is basically a cover form with your demographic and biographical information, and then your letter of interest, and then a current resume. So just those 3 things for you. And then this graphic just shows us that we look at the cohort, the whole cohort, or when we're selecting people, we pick from every sector, and there is no demarcation which we favor or select. So, for example, we don't say, you know, the cohort applications are rolling in, and we're getting a bunch of different kinds of people from different sectors. And if it so happens that we get a lot of folks who happen to come from the healthcare field, for example, we don't limit that, if there's too many folks with this or that background, we're lacking. Um, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. What is in the meeting? Okay. Sorry, my baby niece came by. Our cohort composition is uh, composed of three different kinds of people: folks who are already seated, folks who are just exploring, and then folks who um, have not yet been on a board of commission yet. The 7-month training is, as I said earlier, is one Saturday per month. And then the issue series, before the pandemic, we had between 3 and 5, but this year we did 2. And so I think we'll probably likely keep it that way to just 2. So those are Thursday night events that are open to the public. And that's from 5:30 to 8. And we are I can't think of any other leadership program that that actually pays you to be a part of it. So that's that's interesting. A funny bragging point we like to point out. It's a small stipend of $500 just to help the fellows offset things that they might incur, such as childcare or transportation issues. So we give a modest stipend of $500 to each fellow. And this is the overall curriculum of the BCLI over those 7 months. As you see, the 3 buckets that we have are political skills, technical skills, and knowledge integration sessions. So you can see a sampling of each of the particular examples of the skill sets that we train in each of these buckets. We support folks, the fellows throughout the program. If you're ready and confident to apply while you're in the program, that's totally fine. We've had people apply and get placed while they're going through the program. If you wait till after you graduate, that's totally fine too. And as staff, we're committed to helping you review the application and help you in any way along the process, and also do our best to lobby for you behind the scenes with our staff relationships and connections with the city's decision makers, policymakers, and elected officials and their delegated staff, liaisons to those boards and commissions. We have a pretty active alumni network, and we do have programming throughout the year, whether it's informal social gathering for alumni to meet each other across the years who may not know each other, or it's professional development training that we host or hire trainers and experts to come in, or pay for fellows to attend workshops for professional development. That's just a sampling of the things that we continue to do for the alumni after they finish the program. We were going to have an alumna named Stephanie Lewis join us tonight, but unfortunately she got sick, so she can't join us tonight. So it'll be just me. So, but you can ask me any questions here in a little bit. These are a few slides to kind of brag about program outcomes to date. We've had, actually that's a typo, we have 8 cohorts. I forgot to update that. We just graduated the 8th cohort this past April, and we have 115 alumni to date. Of those, 62 have been placed, so that's over 50%, and that's actually one of the higher rates of all the BCLI programs across the country. We've had folks come through our program and go on to do great things, or have high profile jobs in systems, not just relating to boards, commissions, but for example, working as senior advisors to mayors, to city council people, um, to running for office themselves. Ilhan Omar came through our first cohort. Horan Hassan is in the state house. She came through our, I want to say fifth or sixth cohort. And so we had, as a sampling here, you have policy advisors to governors and mayors. Just more program outcomes. We won't have time to do the videos, but just some stats here. In our evaluation, the alumni have identified increased leadership and public visibility and personal effectiveness in their personal and professional lives. And they've gone on to help be critical players in other leadership programs. This is just a sampling of the timeline for the rest of the year here. So the nominations, the application closes June 11th. August, we have interviews mid-August, and then the cohort is picked by September. And then on October 9th, there'll be a welcome dinner before the first Saturday session. And then that monthly programming repeats itself through March, and then April is the first week of April. That first Thursday is graduation. And this is the contact information for myself and my boss, Terry Thao. If you have questions, you can reach out to us there. Otherwise, I'm glad to stand for any other immediate questions that you folks have right now. Feel free to just shout them out.
What other qualifications or experience do you look for in candidates?
Great question. One of the slides earlier that you saw was basically it's just advocacy work, and advocacy, we mean that in a very general sense. It doesn't mean you have to have been a lobbyist in your job title. You know, every one of us in every day, in many small ways that we don't even think about, we have been or we are advocates for someone or something. Whether you're advocating for better treatment of your child at school, or better healthcare, or disputing health insurance issues for your elderly parents. In many ways, and anyway, you have and I have officially and unofficially advocated for someone else. So really, just the passion and the determination to want to become a better advocate, so that you can advocate for an equity agenda on the boards and commissions to which you will be having a seat at the table.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh no, my camera. From the previous cohort, Chai, what would you say was if you could choose like one highlight, what was one of your highlights from the previous cohort?
One highlight.
I know it's a tough one.
Yeah, I know it's tough. There were we survived some challenges because of COVID, and this was our first online cohort, like that was fully online. I was really happy actually that before the program even ended, we were able to place 2 fellows on a board commission. So during toward the end of the program, 2 fellows had applied, and were luckily placed on pretty cool boards on the Human Rights Board in St. Paul. So we were really proud and lucky to have that happen. We usually for the program, the cohort to go through the program and have 2 people placed throughout the around the same time before the program even ends. That usually doesn't happen often, and so I'd say that was probably one of the cooler highlights of the year.
Thank you for sharing.
Any other questions? Yeah. So to wrap up here, I just like to remind folks that some folks might struggle or might think they might struggle with finding a nominator. In the past, we've helped many folks figure that situation out. So please don't feel shy and don't be turned off by that. If you really think you might struggle to find a nominator, just reach out to me privately, and I will be glad to help find a partner in the field, whether it's a nonprofit partner or an alumni, to help be your nominator. So just let folks know that. And yeah, there's just another week and 1 day left. So I really look forward to seeing all your applications roll in by Friday afternoon next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so that's all my contacts are there. Otherwise, if you browse our website, you'll also find that too. So thanks everyone for taking the time to join me this evening for the info session.
Great,
Thank you.